7.4, Solving Polynomial Equations in Factored Form. Our objective for this lesson will be able to use the zero product property and factor polynomials using the GCF, greatest common factor. So first we need to talk about polynomials being in factored form or in standard form. We talked about standard form before. Standard form is where we have, it's in decreasing exponents. We want the exponents to go from least to greatest. Greatest to least, decreasing, and just show the addition of terms. We want it strictly to show the addition of the terms or monomials. For example, x squared plus 2x is in standard form. Okay. But what we'll see here in a minute is sometimes we prefer these in what we call factored form. If you don't remember what the word factor means, a factor is really just the number that you're multiplying. A factor times a factor equals a product. So if I was multiplying, for example, 2 times 8, the 2 and the 8 are the factors, 16 is the product. So 2 and 8 are the factors. Factors are the numbers being multiplied. So if I put this in factored form, what this means is I'm going to write it as a multiplication. Factored form just means written as a multiplication. Okay. In standard form here, again, we write it the addition of terms. We're taking this term plus this term. In factored form, we want to write it as a multiplication of two things. And so I can rewrite this polynomial from standard form into factored form by writing it as x times x plus 2. Because if I multiply this x times x plus 2 in there, I end up getting x squared plus 2x if I distribute it in. I get back to the standard form. But this is what we call factored form because it's an x times the x plus 2. And so the two factors are the things being multiplied. I'm multiplying the x and the x plus 2. So the x and x plus 2 are factors because they are the numbers that we're multiplying. Okay. For example, another polynomial in factored form would be x minus 3 times x plus 8. So there it is in factor form. My two factors are x plus 3 and x plus 8. Okay. And it's in factor form because I'm strictly multiplying this times this. It's a straight up multiplication. But now I can write this in standard form by distributing. So I would distribute the x's. So I'd have x squared plus 8x minus 3x minus 24. So then in standard form, when I put together like terms, x squared plus 5x minus 24. So there it is in standard form. Okay. So I can write it in factored form or I can write it as standard form. The reason we like it in factored form is because we can then use the zero product property to solve. What the zero product property tells me is if I'm multiplying two things, if I have something times something else and I end up getting a 0, we know whenever to get a 0 out from a multiplication, if I want to take 3 times something and get 0, the only possibility for this something is for it to be a 0. 3 times anything else is going to get me some number not 0. So that means this missing piece has to be a 0. So what the zero product property tells me, if I multiply two things, the product of two numbers, for the product of two numbers to be 0. One of the product of two, scratch that. Let's make this word factors instead. For the product of two factors to be 0, one of the factors must equal 0. So basically, if I multiply a times b and get 0, this tells me A has to be 0 or B has to be 0. One of the two has to be 0. And so we can use this little tidbit to help us solve polynomials in factored form if they equal 0. And we can solve them by solving them when we find the solutions. We also call those roots. So another bit of vocabulary is roots. Roots are just another word for the solutions of a polynomial. And what we mean by solution is the numbers that you can put in for x that work. Hey, for example, here I have, this is in factored form. My two factors are 2x and x minus 4. So 2x and the x minus 4. So 2x and x minus 4 are factors, because I'm multiplying 2x times x minus 4 and equaling 0. So it says to solve. So solve means find the solution or figure out what x's work in here. Okay. Well, we're going to use this new idea of the zero product property. Here I have the product of two factors equaling 0. That will only work if one of them is 0. So to set this up, I take each factor and set it equal to 0. So 2x equals 0, and then I use the word or, x minus 4 equals 0. The reason we use the word or is they both can equal 0 at the same time. So 2x equals 0 or x minus 4 equals 0. And then now we have two little equations I can solve. I can solve this little equation by dividing by 2. X equals 0 or, and now this little equation I can solve over here by adding 4 to each side. 0 plus 4 is 4. So my two solutions are either 0 or 4. And you can check them, meaning if I replace both these x's with 0. So I'm going to do a quick check over here. So 2 times 0, 0 minus 4 equals 0. Does it work? 2 times 0 times negative 4. Yep, that equals 0. That one worked. So what about the 4? 2 times 4 minus 4. 2 times 4 times 4 minus 4 is 0. 2 times 4 times 0 is 0. Yep, that one worked too. So this equation actually has two solutions. So we write them, there's our solution right there, x equals 0 or x equals 4. Sometimes we write them as what we call a solution set. And we'll write them least to greatest, 0, comma, 4, with curly brackets around it. So those are the two numbers that will work for x. Okay. All right, so this next one, my two factors. I have a factor of x minus 3 times a factor of x minus 9. So there's my two factors. For me to be multiplying those two things and getting 0, okay, important word, there has to be a 0 on that side, I know either x minus 3 has to equal 0 or x minus 9 has to equal 0. So I'm going to solve each of these little equations separately. Here I'm going to add 3 to both sides. X equals 3. Or, now on this one I can add 9 to both sides. X equals 9. So there's my solution. I can put it in a solution set. 3 comma 9. Curly brackets. There's my solution set. 3 comma 9. Now I want you to go and do page 381, 4 through 8 even.